here joining us. So Danny, welcome to Reconnect. As you already know, I'm the founder of Reconnect, and this community I created this community to connect high performance people. And when I say high performance people, are people that are willing to grow, to move, and to learn together. And this Fireside Chats is an opportunity that we have to connect in between our life experiences, but also to share stories that inspire, challenge, and connect us. So today I have somebody so special here on this call. So Sabine Van Der Salm, directly from South Africa, which I always ask her if her background is from Google, and she always tells me no. It is actually real. It's just amazing.
We've got
Exactly. Doesn't
beach
this look
towels
like...
on there at the moment, but anyway, there we go. It's a beautiful
There we
day.
go. We had a monkey there jumping the other day.
Oh, we did, didn't we?
Yes.
Looks like
So Sabine directly from the South Africa with this amazing background and amazing herself altogether. She's been working, she has 20 plus years of experience working with executives, entrepreneurs, and founders, helping them to find clarity, identity, and direction to reach far beyond job titles. And I love it. Actually, I worked with Sabine myself here personally with her just what during COVID, Sabine was during COVID, yeah,
yeah,
2020.
I think it was actually, yeah.
Yeah, very interesting
It was
time
just
actually.
after we met in Australia.
Yes, yes. Was in a moment actually that I left my job and I started my previous business, which was called the Mind Bug. And Sabine helped me to find my value proposition, which in the next webinar, we're going to share what she found out. And for the benefit of it, when I started Reconnect, I went there to check it out and I saw what was written there and what I was doing. And I said, I think I nailed it now. I
Love it.
think that's what is the right one. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will leave you with Sabine here that is going to share an amazing, not just story, but content altogether on how to discover your unique value proposition. Sabine,
Thank you, Renata.
everything
And
is
before
yours.
we start, hi, Matteo. Just wanted to give a quick hello and hello to everybody. It's so good to be here. Yeah, I feel really privileged to be able to be in a room with all these high performers. I've watched a couple of the sessions, which are just mind blowing. I just love the caliber of human beings that are in this space. And so to kind of put a bit of context on Renata, like the unique value proposition, I spent years in radio helping clients find their unique value proposition so we could write short 30-second ads that made them stand out on air and help them sell their products. And when I went into the online space, I was in traditional business. I had when I left radio, I joined a family business and we were in construction, specialized in swimming pools. And then when we sold the business, I was like, I do not want a business like that again. There's no leverage. It's like 24/7. It is hectic. So I wanted to learn online business and how to kind of scale and leverage my time and expertise. And through that process, what I learned was that, if a business can have a unique value proposition, a human being can as well. And the reason why I got to that point was because I wanted to start an online business, but I had no idea what value I could offer. I was like stuck, really stuck, because, if you want to have a business, you need to offer value, obviously. And I really didn't know, like I'd been successful in radio, had a successful business, but I didn't know what made me stand apart, what made me unique and different. And in order for me to create a successful online business, I had to find something, because I had to find my niche. Sorry, just give me a sec. There's a bit of a noise. Sorry. Okay, machinery going. So I needed to find what set me apart so that I could not only start a business that was successful, but that made me feel fulfilled, that I was feeling in flow with, that I enjoyed, and that had longevity. I didn't want to be stuck doing something that I really felt like I was moving uphill. And that was a whole exploration of self and just looking at all the different elements that made me who I am. And through that, looking at my radio career, my entrepreneurial career, I spent time in Uganda, started a business there, which is now being resurrected, making Greek yogurt, but that's another story for another day. And so what I found was that there were so many people online that were trying to make a success, but they just didn't know their unique value proposition. And at the time, I came across Renata, and we clicked. Me, Renata, and Matteo, we really clicked. We met in the Gold Coast at an event. It was brilliant. And, I said to Renata, well, why don't you go through my process? I've just started it. I've been doing it for 5 years now. I had just started it. And I was trying to get it off the ground. And I took her through the process. And what it did is it gave her clarity on what it is that she would be really good at, what she's naturally good at, what she's passionate about, her values, that they're aligned with what it is that she's going to do, and a unique mission that she could be on. And yes, it's developed over the years, but that's really the basis of what I do. It's about creating a unique path for individuals, whether they are in corporate and they want to find the perfect fit for work, or whether they want to start a business. A lot of the people that I work with are at a crossroads. So at that junction of like, what's my next chapter? Doesn't matter age or where they're at. It's just sort of, what do I need to do next that's going to fit me? The common thread with the people that I work with is that they don't want to do work just for money. They want to do work that leaves them feeling fulfilled. And then when I saw that book, The Sports Gene, I was really intrigued. I thought, let me have a look what that book is about. And the premise was that it was challenging that an elite athlete can only be kind of looked at from a nature versus nurture perspective, or from a 10,000 hour perspective, but that it's got a lot to do with the natural biology, the natural talent. And so that ties in so like exactly with the work that I do, because if you are not tapping into the natural abilities that you have been given, that you are actually just born with, that you can nurture and become even better at, you often feel like you're swimming upstream. So you can still be successful, but if you use your natural abilities, it allows you to succeed exponentially. And so after looking at that book, I thought, okay, I'm going to go and have dinner with a friend of mine and his wife. He's a sports agent for Africa. So he's got just over about 150 athletes on his books. And I said to him, Leroy, what if you look at the Sports Gene book, what would you say, like in actual experience with hundreds of elite athletes around the world, going to the Olympics, going to the world champs, all of these things? He said, the basis for everything is natural ability. And it got me thinking, we were sitting at the table with the chef of the restaurant as well. And Ray said, when he was 13, he knew that he wanted to be a chef. And then Leroy's wife, Kim, said their daughter, who's 14, 15, is doing exams and she is struggling. She's just not cut out for the school system, which I don't know if anybody can relate to that. But the school system, I believe, and I might be hated for this, but I don't believe that it sets us up for success necessarily, because it narrows you in a testing system that doesn't necessarily take into account your natural ability and the things that you are actually wired for. And this book talks about wiring, talks about biological wiring. And so it was really interesting. Around a table, we were having the same conversation, but for 3 different people. So we were talking about elite athletes. We were talking about somebody who was doing a career that he absolutely loved, which was chefing. And he's now got a few restaurants that are really brilliant. He used to cook for like Parliament in London or something. And then a girl who is trying to find her way, and she's just not finding her fit, and she's swimming upstream. And then the comment from the chef was like, he's like, I'm pretty sure like 70% of people are miserable in the work that they do. And I said, actually, there was a study done and it's 82%. It is a shocking 82% of people that do work that doesn't fit them. And it's got a couple of, well, more than a couple of reasons why this happens, is because either none of their elements. So the elements that I look at are the 5 elements of unique value. So either none of the elements are present in the work that they're doing, and that makes them feel like they are literally swimming upstream without a paddle, and the rapids are just on them the whole time. Versus if they are paddling downstream, just ease and flow. And that's where the 5 elements of unique value come in. So they are your passions, your values. Your value systems are super important with the work that you do, your natural giftings, your skills and experience, and then the unique mission that you should be on based on your experiences of life and the things that you care about. So every single one of those elements is very tightly intertwined with one another to be able to determine your ideal fit going forward. And what I've noticed is there's so many different people who either feel like they don't have the right fit, like there's something missing, and they just need a recalibration and a confirmation, and they go through that process. You know, we don't spend, the majority of us, I think there's you probably have time to like you growth mindset people, so I would imagine that you do spend time growing. But what I've encountered is that people are so busy with life, they're just trying to survive, and they're like paddling underwater there, and they don't have time to look at what they really want. And as on top of that, we've had a system that has boxed us in and said, if you do this and you succeed in this way, you will be counted successful. And if you don't, you're a flop. And Renata was talking to me about a connection that she's actually made just before the call started, with a woman who's going to talk to this group, who was also like destined to fail because of all the odds that were stacked against her. And the thing is that maybe the school system needs to be the way that it is, and there's no other way it could be, and it's trying to just like help as many people as possible. And I get that. I have the greatest respect for teachers. I really, really do. But I do find that looking at kids, myself included, my one son and my friend's daughter, it doesn't allow them to look at their uniqueness, their unique value, so that they can actually feel completely alive. One of the basic human needs is human contribution. So when you are not contributing in the unique way that you should be contributing, you feel dead. You feel burnt out. You feel like there's something missing. But when you tap into the human design, like if you have a long Achilles tendon and you go and you do high jump or whatever, long jump, you suddenly feel like, oh, I found my sport. But if you're a sprinter and your body's made for sprinting and you try and be a marathon runner and you just keep not being the world champ, and then suddenly you go into your sport and you're like, oh my gosh, I found my fit. And there was a light bulb moment that went off for me last night when we were having this conversation. When Ray, the chef, said X amount of people are just unhappy in the work that they do, and then Leroy said every single successful sportsman, every single one, has to have a natural innate ability, then why don't we make that as a foundational basis for the work that people do? When we go and look at a business, instead of going, let me see what the gap in the market is. That's a very pragmatic way of looking at it, for sure, because businesses need to make money, they need to succeed, they have to have a decent viability. But unless if one wants to last in business in any way, whether it's in employment or your own business, having a fit where not only does it have market demand, but it actually fits your natural abilities and your tendencies, so that you can actually feel in flow when you're doing business. Like surely that would change that statistic of 82% of the world's population being unhappy in the work that they're doing. It's like slavery. It's like, it feels like that is the most radical crime, you know? And I really believe that it should be changed, because if you're in a position right now today, you're feeling so energized by the work that you do and so happy and whatever, whether you are, that's amazing. It's incredible. I never really found that fit until I started this business. But that makes you a very small percentage of the population. And imagine spending the majority of your time doing work that doesn't feel like it fits. And that's really what my mission is to help people find their natural lane so that they can look at all of their experiences, their passions, the things that they're interested in, and combine that into a viable business or career that makes sense. And so when I was preparing for today's talk, I actually felt like I didn't want to do a death by PowerPoint or anything like that because I don't know you that well. And so because the application of what I do is quite vast to different, when you're doing a specific talk, you talk to a person's kind of desires and what they're struggling with and whatever. And, you know, having worked with people from people in their 70s who are in a place where they're like, I've retired. I feel like I don't have much meaning anymore. I've got so much energy and I don't know what my next step is. To somebody who's approaching retirement, to somebody who's in their 40s, in their 30s, I'm really feeling stuck. I'm feeling aimless. It's always the common denominator is like crossroads and what's next. So, so instead of doing a death by PowerPoint, I would actually love to have a conversation with you and just find out, like, how has your experience been with your career and how you've either fitted into a career that felt so in flow and so good, and what is that like commonality, should we say, versus have you kind of been in a career at all, at any point in your life, or a business where it just felt like you were moving uphill? Because what I want to do, I have a 3-part series that I want to deliver to you next year. And that is going through the process of discovering your unique value proposition. Initially, I was just going to give you the high level stuff, but I thought about it last night and I was like, you know what? We could go, I mean, it is a bit of a longer process than 3 weeks, but I could actually put it into a 3-week process and go through your 5 elements and go through those questions to help you go through that process. But before I do that and create something that's customized for you, I would love to get a feel for what the atmosphere is in the room, if you don't mind, Renata.
I love it.
Cool.
Someone want to get
Cool.
started.
Well,
Oh,
sorry, I just wanted to jump in, Sabine. It's great to have you here, by the way. I love everything that you shared, and the word that came up to my mind as you were speaking is brave. You need to be brave because we are so stuck into our perception who we are and what we do in society, and often the first step really to embark in this journey is to have a leap of faith and don't be worried about the consequence, right? I think from my perspective, and there is a lot of the stuff that me and Renata did that is giving a go. And often people in a step like that, when they
I'm so
have to
glad.
worry about the family and the colleagues and the friends, they have to be brave.
Yeah, I love that. You know what? It is so, so true. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because one of the other comments that Leroy made was a lot of people, even if what he was saying is like, there's a lot of people that are good at what they do, but they can't stand it. And they don't leave because they're afraid. And that word brave sums it up. Because what I find with anybody at any crossroads, whatever that is, if they need to make a change, they kind of go, should I study again? Should I start a business? What business could that be? Should I go for that promotion? Should I, whatever? Should I change industries? Whatever it is, it requires a massive amount of bravery. And it reminds me of a client that I worked with very recently. We actually took him through our branding of our entire program, and he was one of the beta testers. He had been on sabbatical for 2 years. So he's probably, Elton is about 55, I think. Got 2 beautiful girls in school. And he took a sabbatical thinking that it was going to be 6 months. And the longer he was off work, the more his confidence diminished and the more afraid he was to go back. And the more he was questioning himself and going, don't really know if I have the confidence. And now what do I do? And do I start a business? He went through this process, and you know what it did? It gave him bravery. It gave him courage, because what he did is he unpacked all of the elements, reminding himself of who he is. Not that he didn't know who he was. This is not like a first-time discovery process. This is a reminder after all the things and the thoughts and the toxicity that goes on in our minds, that tells us we're not good enough, that tells us we won't succeed, that tells us that we're afraid and that we can't start again. And so it was amazing what happened, actually. So he realized he'd come from senior management in the car rental industry with Avis. And he had done such an amazing, his passion was about customer service. And as he went through the process, you have this final exercise that helps you really pinpoint a practical application that you can use your 5 elements with and go, what business, what consulting role, what job could I do that's really going to match everything that I'm about? And he found himself walking into a shop one day, just going to buy lighting because they were doing some renovations in the house. And he went to the till, and the lady was brand new, and she was fumbling around, didn't know how to charge, I didn't know how to ring it up. And he recognized this, and he had such compassion because he had dealt with customer service, and he knew how to, he was like, can I show you how to do it? It ended up the store manager, the rest of the store staff were standing there while Elton was so beautifully guiding her through this process. And it landed up getting him a contract. He would never have done that just off the cuff, naturally, randomly, had he not been reminded of his value, his unique value, that he actually has a responsibility to contribute into the world. And so that's what it gave. And so, Matteo, bravery, what a brilliant word. I love that. Sorry for the tangent.
Anybody? I have something. Somebody spoke. I have something to share, Sabine, to encourage other people to jump on as well. I think that for me, I think there was a couple things in this process of finding what I love to do, right? That I love to do, that I can work with and make a living out of it, right? Because I think there is a challenge sometimes of you finding something that you love to do, but this just don't combine with the money component, right?
The viability.
Yes. Or making that a business that you can actually make money to, to survive, right? And that you're fine with it. So, and then you have to work onto your other blueprint, which is what are your goals with your finances, right? Like, what do you want? Do you want small, medium, or large, right? Because then depending on what you are wanting to do and how this will be a business, it can be one or the other. So I think the challenge sometimes I had was I had something that I knew I could do well, and I could do something about it to help people, but into my other blueprint wouldn't fit into my, where I wanted to be, right? The things that I wanted to do. So, but my biggest challenge, I think, overall is actually the imposter syndrome component, right? That you are actually good at something, but you don't believe you're good at something because you are I am looking forward. And then there is always somebody better in my perception to me. So then what I do is, why they would get what I do, they just get what that person does, right? And what I've learned through the process is that actually there are people that are much closer to me than from them. So then the way that I speak, the way that I am, that is what ultimately gonna attract that, right? It was a process to get here, definitely a work we did together, but also it still sometimes gets me, this, right? It's like, why would somebody be here when they could be elsewhere that is doing something similar? But the truth is, would never be like what I am doing anyway, right? So it's the imposter syndrome that's, I think, sometimes, get us, especially if you are working for a business from somebody else for so long, that you're earning a salary, right? That you're there because of your skill, and then you're not there anymore, and now you need to believe 100% in what you're doing to do your own thing, right?
Yeah, 100%. It is very much about belief. And I think what's interesting is that when that is the precursor to the bravery. So when you unpack all of the things that actually make you who you are, and you can actually see the truth of what you have to offer, the unique value that you have, you're then able to go, wow, okay, you can start believing in that value. And that leads to the feeling of bravery or courage to be able to go and pursue what it is that you've always wanted to, that maybe you wouldn't have done previously. And so if this whole community is about growing and pushing, like, I wonder what things anybody here thinks about that they want to do that maybe they don't, or maybe everybody here is doing what you want to do. Maybe you have that bravery and that belief. And then if you do, I would love to know what caused that. How did you get into a position where you're all in really senior positions, owning your own business, leading, big teams in corporate. Like, what was it that gave you the confidence to do what it is that you do? Is it a natural fit, or do you feel like it isn't? I'd be really very curious to know.
So I am Denise. Hi.
Hi, Denise.
Hi. So my story is, I think, it's a mix of everything that everybody has been contributing so far. So I have been 30 years working on one business that has been bought by 3 different companies, etc. I think I was very, very successful because, well, I used to love, until all the years, I used to love what I was doing. I was giving, every time new assignments and growing and growing and growing. I had no need to even think about changing, industries or anything, because having been, started in Brazil, and then from there I was moved to the United States, and from there to Geneva, from there to Barcelona, from there to Brazil again, blah, 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 blah. And then, end of last year, the company that's going through changes decided to close the Barcelona office and said, oh, Denise, why don't you, because you are you and your role is very strategic, why don't you go and move it to the headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware, or Geneva, Switzerland? I have been there before, and they would not offer the same conditions I would have if I would be an expat, because it would be a local hire. And then the office would be closing, like it closed in June. So now it's like 6 months that I'm like on transition to transition with all the mixed feelings that we all discussed here. And I think it was courageous of me, or brave of me, to say, hey, to change it for the change, to be doing the same, let me go. So in June, they closed the office, and I say it's brave because I'm confident about myself, right? Because I didn't want to do the same, moving to places that I have been living before. And even more because I used to love what I love it. So it's kind of like a divorce from one side. It's like, like somebody that you love forever. And then this person says, well, I'm moving. You decide what you want to do. So, and so now, like, the challenge is like a lot of things that Renata said or you said, it's like, okay, what can give me more, the same or more fulfillment than what I had before? So I'm like kind of afraid of not finding what I used to have for 30 years. So it's that's the difference
Wow.
being on things, because
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, okay, how can I find a new husband or a new partner that was as good
Yeah.
as, if not better, right? It can
Yeah.
be better because you're going through a different experience. It can be better in the sense that, oh, let me try, doing my own thing, or let me try going, like I'm interviewing these days. I'm working on 2 projects. I'm interviewing, but it's just like, I think this paralysis by, oh my God, should I go this way or should I go this way? Because I don't know which one is going to give me fulfillment, if I will have the same fulfillment as before. So that's really the challenge here.
Wow. Wow. Denise, thank you so much for sharing that. And it really is a slightly different nuance than kind of somebody who's feeling unfulfilled in their career. That's a massive challenge. And what I see with a lot of people that I work with who are similar to you, in that you kind of, like, the word that came up for me was 10,000 hours. You've kind of become the expert, the pro at what you do, especially because you love it so much. And so now it could be, I don't know what your other 2 path options are, but like looking at how to contribute to the person that you were 20 years ago, to be able to be like mentoring or helping, or, I see a lot of people going into the consulting type of space when they kind of because they want to share their expertise. They've matured, they've got wisdom, experience, knowledge, understanding, like all the different, not just the the um the theoretical stuff, but actually the experience of being able to help somebody through something that might not necessarily know how to do that. And so, yeah, getting to a point in life where you want to have even more fulfillment. The story that comes up for me was a guy who I coached not so long ago. He's a vet, and he loved what he did. He loved what he did. He specialized in surgery. Specialized in surgery, I think it was a special type of surgery. I can't remember what it was. But what he was finding is that he was burnt out, and he was really like, he needed something that he could also just like leverage his time a little bit. And he was just struggling to find what it is that he could do. And then what he did, he went through the process and he identified a problem in the industry. So he found that young vets were being abused, and they were being taken advantage of, underpaid, overworked, and just no place for them to vent or talk or have a mentor in the industry. So he was like, that's a mission that I could be on. So that was his unique mission. The skill set and the experience was obviously being a vet, and doing all the things that he knew how to do. And then obviously like his passion for making change and helping people who are maybe downtrodden or like undervalued. And so that whole thing was creating a community. But how does he monetize it? Well, he recommends machinery, and how do you set up your business, how do you run your vet. And so there could be like coaching and all kinds of things. And so it's sometimes a bit of a shift, especially if you really enjoy your industry, but you're kind of looking for what the next step would be. Potentially. I mean, I don't know your scenario from Adam, but really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah, there
Denise.
is something that you said, Sabine. Tell me if what you think about it. That sometimes a word that you say changes everything. So it's not that you said here, I wrote down, that you are doing something, like what you can be doing is better, like getting out of your 30 years experience and doing something better. I think now the right word is actually something different. And I say that to you because all of the countries that I lived, people usually ask me, Renata, which one is better? There is no better one. They are all different. So I can't actually measure Australia, Brazil, and Argentina and Italy as which one is better. They are so different. So there is no better and worse, because actually what is better here is worse there. What is worse here is better there. So there is, depends of what is your better and what's your measurement for that, right? So if you think about restarting your business now and do your own consulting may be painful because you're going to be a little bit under the water, right? It's not that you're receiving that same paycheck every month, which give us the certainty and security we were talking on the last webinar with Chris, right? But for the other hand, the flexibility that you have to do things in your own way over time, when you start to see that you survive, like you're going to receive, you know, here and there, and things are gonna start to, you get out of that moment that is very daunting and uncertain. You see, okay, I can survive. Yeah, okay, I can pay my bills with this. I can keep going. And then you start to say, you know what, this is great. Friday afternoon, I can take off and I can go for a walk with my dog, or I can stay on the weekend. I can go somewhere else, or and not just holiday break, not doing anything kind of things, but you just know, you know what, I'm going to write that email the way that I want. I'm going to do that landing page with that picture that I find awesome, right? I am going to respond to that guy in the way that I feel like it's the right way, right? That you don't need to, okay, hey, Fulano, can you check my email to see if you know, you don't have that anymore. So things are kind of in your own terms. And so I think that there is no better and worse. It's just a different scenario that you're going to be confronting, right? And that difference, yeah, it's just different, right? It's like the change of country kind of analogy, I think. Just a suggestion.
For sure.
No, super. Totally
No.
supportive of what you said.
Yeah, because it's different. It's different. It's never gonna be, there will be good things in one, bad in others, and vice versa. But after all, if you're following what you love and what you like to do,
Yeah, that's the key. True. That's the key, because life is so fast, it goes so fast that
Yeah.
you really need to love what you do, because to dedicate minimum 8 hours of the day. And I know Renata, I don't know, but I think I'm suspicious that she dedicates 24 hours, because I see her, you know, posts that like 24 hours. So you really have to love what you do.
but you know, I'll tell you
For
something.
sure.
When I was working for somebody else, it's 8 o'clock at night. I receive a message. I don't read it. It's 8 o'clock at night. You send me a message. I will read it. The care also that although I cared a lot for everything I was doing before, but it just have a different mindset. It's kind of, you also enjoy it. I don't know how to explain it. I just think that there is a level of, I don't know if you care or just because we enjoy it, you just want to solve that thing.
No, I think when you have a passion, like I said, 30 years, when you have a passion, you work 24 hours because this is giving you back. It's like you don't see as work, you see as like, you know, it's nurturing you. So that's how I see it, for instance.
Emma, go for it.
It's contribution.
Just a question, Sabine. I'm just interested to see if you've seen a difference from a generational, like the different clients that you deal with. I'm thinking back with my parents, and my dad was a teacher. He absolutely loved what he did. My mum worked for the government. She hated it. But there was never, they grew up in a time where having a job wasn't a choice. Like you did what you did, not because you loved it, because, you know, passion was never part of the equation. If you loved what you did, you were very, very lucky. Whereas I think now the conversations that we're having, it's like we spend so much time in our jobs that, you know, in order to make that time in a way, you can validate it personally and say, well, I love this. So, you know, I can commit 80 hours a week because I love it and I love my job. So yeah, my question is, have you seen a shift with people? And your point before was somebody coming to you in retirement, you know, is it the retirement stage they can actually now go, oh, I've got time now to go, what do I want to do with my life? Whereas, you know, you get on that hamster wheel and it's, I'm running, I've got to do this, I've got to have a job. It doesn't matter if I like it because, you know, one day I'm going to be retired. But does it change as you see different generations? And have we got to a point now where we've kind of shifted? I don't want to say too far, but work is work. should we be searching for that job that makes us great people who enjoy what we do, or is it like, are we asking for too much?
I think that's a great question. And I think that there's definitely a generational thing where you've got a whole bunch of people in the older generation who were kind of going, I did what I did, and now what's next for me? So the pain point is slightly different. Whereas younger people who are in a position where they're just kind of grinding away and doing the work that they have to do every day, like you say, I think they don't give space to the possibility that they could be doing something that they really enjoy. They just accept that this is their lot in life. So I think the difference maybe isn't necessarily a generational thing. I think it's more about the time. So, you're saying you're kind of grinding on the hamster wheel and you don't actually have time to contribute to the discovery process and what could I do, because you don't believe that that's possible. But I do see a commonality across the board. I mean, I coached a guy, 26 years old, very young family. He's a concrete specialist. He lays concrete in the UK. Switched on, you can see he's entrepreneurial, but he's got the same pain point as somebody in their 70s, exactly the same. And so I found that actually quite fascinating, because across the board, you've got this, and I think the commonality is people who feel like there's something missing. They want more purpose and meaning. Some people don't really like the word purpose. They're more like, I need something that's got more meaning. And I think that's more prevalent in the younger generation, where they're looking at what the older generation have done, selling themselves short, working so many hours, and they're like, we don't want to do this. But there's also like a bit of an imbalance, because we also need to acknowledge that anything that's going to be successful, the 10,000 hour rule applies. You've got to do the work. You've got to put in the grind. So does that answer your question at all, Emma?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a really interesting, I'm finding that the more work that I do in it, the more I'm seeing like people are craving. And you know what I'm noticing is that it is a case of being alive, because a lot of people are not doing what makes them come alive. And I noticed that when I was doing my Discovering You program live. It's now like a automated thing, but when I was doing it live, taking people through their 5 elements, one of the common sentences people would say is like, I found this thing and it makes me feel so alive. And I'm like, yes, that's what we need. That's what we need is people who are doing work that makes them feel alive. Imagine a world shifted upside down, where at the moment people feel dead in their work. So they're just moving day to day. 82% of people. Imagine shifting that over where people are feeling alive. You know that feeling when you just feel in flow and you're just feeling like really good about it. And it doesn't have to be airy fairy and like, oh, I want to follow my passion. It does have to be practical. So you need to validate that whatever pathway you're going through is going to be viable. But I've also found that you don't have to start a business, because not everybody's entrepreneurial, but it is about having a fit with the right value system. And I'm sure you know this, but not everybody does. Not everybody understands that if I go and get a job with a company that doesn't share my value systems, I'm not going to be happy. And so I think that people are undereducated about how to pursue the right career. Not everyone, but there's a lot of people, a vast majority of people, that don't understand why they're burning out and why they're unhappy. And it's because they're not tapping into their natural wiring and the things that matter to them. Because in order to find that fit of like meaning, we need to connect with somebody's value system as a company, or create our own, and do something that matters. Because if we're just working to make money, burnout is going to come. And so sometimes if somebody's working and feeling burnt out, they just need a recalibration and go, well, what is the mission of the company? Why am I here again? And sometimes that just puts them back on track, and that's okay. So it's not always about going, oh, I need this perfect job that brings me purpose and meaning and happiness and all of that stuff. It sometimes can be just like a shift in calibration and perspective, you know? So,
Emma, I have a comment on your comment, which is I think that before we nail something that we really are passionate, we're gonna do a bunch of things before, right? You can't go, oh yeah, we wish I could leave school and go, yes, it's straight into Reconnect. I would have
yes,
saved
for sure.
25 years of life, but all of the things that happened to me before were fundamental, what the base to be here right now, even the ones that I didn't like to do, which I did a bunch of things that I didn't like to do, but they were part of the learning process to be here now, right? And the other thing is sometimes you also don't have the choice, right? Like you have to go and find something to work and period. I remember when I arrived in Australia, I couldn't find a job when I arrived there. And then I said, I have to do something because I can't be here just waiting for that interview and the thing. And then I started working for a coffee shop. Was the job of my life and anything? Of course not. I remember not liking to go there and just trying to find the positive. You know how I am with my positive thing. Oh, it's great to be here at 5:30 in the morning opening a coffee shop in Melbourne with 2 degrees, right? But now when I look back, that job made sense, right? Like in a lot of ways, like I became a manager there, so I needed to manage all the payment systems of things, which today serve me immensely. That job that I did in the coffee shop 10 years ago, right? But it's not easy. And the other thing that is not easy, I think, is to respond this question, right? The other day I was talking to someone on the phone and the person asked me, are you happy? And I said, that's a very good question. I don't think happiness is a constant state. It's moments that happens, it's moments, right? So it's not because you're doing, so even within the thing that you love to do, there were things that you hate to do within that, right? So I think it's navigating
sure.
those feelings and those emotions, and I think there is something on that. Let's see here what Jackson asks. Jackson, did you want to ask or do you want me to read that throughout now that I put you on the spot?
I'm happy to ask. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I also did some work as a teacher, and one of the things that I worked on was the idea of positive education, positive psychology, and a part of that is character strengths. So one of the things that we tried to get students to look at was what they were good at and what they liked doing. And then if you consider that in a professional sense, perhaps the actual job is not so important as how you do it. So in terms of a teacher, you can be a teacher who's very, very social and calm and works well with the students and builds their rapport in that way. Or you could be a teacher who's very, very organized and just has the students doing something all the time. Both of those classrooms are calm and the students learn a lot, but they're completely different styles, and it's building on character strengths rather than something you're need to do really, really passionately. You're just doing it in the way that you know how to do it. And I wonder whether you come across that idea of character strengths in the gene research or the books that you read about genes.
Well, so I didn't actually go into that book in depth. I saw it as a comment on the post here. So I don't look at that in depth. But what I do find is that it's almost like a recalibration. So and it's exactly what you say. It's like, how do you approach it according to how you are wired? So, and that's where the recalibration comes in, where it's like maybe you don't necessarily need to completely change where you're going or the direction that you're heading in, but it's got so much to do with kind of slipping into the stream that you all are already wired in. And so I suppose that's really, if you say character strengths, would you say that's like a like your natural gifting? Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah. So
Okay.
as I used it in the classroom, was kind of, you know, if you are artistic, I'm not going to ask you to write a very technical scientific essay. I might ask you to draw a diagram instead. So you're leaning into what you're good at and what you enjoy. Both of those can be perfectly accessible in the sense of a classroom. You can get a lot of information from a well-drawn diagram, but you also can get a lot of information from a very scientific report. And both of those things function, if you consider that in a workplace, both of those things function in a scientific workplace, but they're completely different skill application or character application.
Assessment. Yeah. You know, I actually love this, and this is why I was so interested in the book, because from the perspective that I've been applying it has been in a very practical, real sense, coaching people in like what they're doing right now, and less of a research. And I'm now really interested in doing a lot more research in it. And when I hear you say things like that, that excites me so much, because it sounds to me like you're applying almost like an assessment according to somebody's strength, rather than just making it one way. And if you don't manage it, then tough. And, you know, that's where I think I really want to do a lot of research into the gene side of it, because I've only done it from more of like a top level practical standpoint. And that's why the book was so interesting for me. And I want to do more research into it, because I do believe that if our wiring is specifically related to our biology, and we can kind of become an elite athlete if we tap into our natural strengths biologically, then it should be the same with our brains, with our hearts. And so we should actually have unique wiring that is not tested or conformed in one way. So to answer your question, I haven't done the research, and I want to. It's just something that really sparked my curiosity. Really cool to hear that. Are you still teaching?
No, I'm not. But, you know, I find it really interesting looking at that and thinking about management techniques in work, for example, right? So, sorry, there's a bit of noise in the background. I'm in a lab. The management technique that you employ if you're managing people will depend on your character strengths, and you can be that person that's very comforting and listening, or you can be that person that's very organized and provides direct direction. And you know, so it's about, maybe, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, but maybe it's more about applying your character to your job to get enjoyment out of it than finding the job that you love.
Absolutely. And that's exactly it. Sometimes it is finding the job that you love, and sometimes it's recalibration. And so what I've noticed with taking people through that kind of reigniting process, that rediscovery process, they either go, I can just apply it in a different way, and I can just kind of recalibrate myself towards what I already have that makes sense, exactly like what you say, according to my natural skill sets, my strengths, my value system, what it is that I could, you know, kind of contribute uniquely. Or you come out of that and go, I'm in the complete wrong space. I really need to make a change. And so that's really what that whole process is, to be able to do that. Like ideally, if somebody could be able to apply themselves within their current role, that's even better, because it doesn't require a massive change. So yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. Sabine, I think we're going to need to wrap it up because it's almost 9 o'clock. It absolutely flew, the time talking to you.
It did indeed.
Do you have all the questions? You can also put, if you want a survey, another one we can put in the group for you to have a little bit more feedback for you next for the sessions with the Discovery program. So we're going to have Sabine for 3 more occasions, which is going to share her, more the practical steps, right, Sabine? What you're going to work next with us starting next year.
That discovery process. Yeah, that discovery process next year.
Yes, that I'm looking forward to it. For this year, we still have 2 more. I will ask you to wake up early for 2 more occasions before 2026. But again, Sabine, I think these next 2 webinars, 2 Fireside Chats, you definitely should join, because the story from Luis and the story from Gabriela are the typical stories of you're gonna be nothing. You failed in school, you were just surfing and being on the beach the whole day, and then they turn everything around, right? Of course, it wasn't easy. And this is the story that we're going to hear. It's the story of how difficult it was to get there, because that's the ones I like to hear. Is the process to get there, is the challenge to get there, not just the final resolution. Sabine, thank you so much for being here today. I am
Thank you for having me.
Yes, no, that's amazing. I hope you all guys enjoyed. If you enjoyed this Fireside Chat, please share. I'm gonna put on the LinkedIn later on. You can share. Danny, share a little bit more about your insights about the book, considering you read that. Put it there on the group so you can share a little bit of the wisdom from that with us in the group. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one, which will be on the 5th of December. And then I promise you, after Luis and Gabriela, I will leave you alone to enjoy your Christmas. But I'll be back on the 15th of January. So just a little holiday for all of you. And then we are back here in the pumping. Thank you so much.
Hey, Renata,
enjoy your Friday.
Renata, I've got a very
Right.
Can
Yes.
I ask a very quick question?
Thank you, Sabine.
100%. Go for it.
I'm interested,
Bye-bye.
before the next time we see Sabine, just to kind of stress test that 82%, if we did an anonymous poll before we chat to Sabine again and see from our REKONNEKT group how many people are actually, love, well, I don't know what the wording is, but, love what they do, or in the yes, I'm doing the right job, versus, well, I'm working to live, or not living to work, and I always get them around the wrong way, but just to kind of see, where are we as a group in that 82%?
That would be brilliant.
Very good.
Yeah, that would be
I'm
really
gonna put
good.
that. Yes, I'm gonna create
good
in a
idea.
way that people don't we don't review identities. For some
Yes.
reasons this is better, although it should be good in our group there to say that you don't like what you do. But anyway, great idea, Emma. We'll do that. So we have this information.